Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Talking Points with Preferred Health Magazine. I'm your host, Angelina Capiello, and today we'll be talking to legendary reporter Ernie Anastos. Ernie Anastos is a New York Emmy Award-winning television news anchor and talk show host on WABC with Positively Ernie, which focuses on uplifting stories and interviews. He is starting this whole positive news revolution, and you need to hear more about this, so stay tuned. You don't want to miss this interview. Let's talk about your career a little bit, okay?
Sure.
So I want to kind of brief everyone for somebody who might not know who you are, which I don't know where they live.
Oh, really?
But you're a Hall of Fame broadcaster. You received more than 40 Emmy Awards and nominations. You've been a news anchor for UPN 9, which was my 9, ABC 7, CBS News 2, Fox 5. You've covered so many important events, 9/11 World Trade Center attacks, obviously, the 2020 global, pandemic. You've reported on Fidel Castro's revolutionary reign, which is pretty cool, and interviewed notable world leaders, including Presidents Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton. The list goes on.
The list goes on, yes.
Long career. So, you've done it all. I wanted to ask you personally, just in all that time, what inspires you? I mean, it's a long career. Do you kind of get jaded on it, or just what keeps inspiring you?
It's a great question. I think I had this feeling of doing what I'm doing from the time I was honestly 10, 11 years old.
I'll see.
I used to sit underneath the kitchen table when I was a kid growing up back in New Hampshire, and I would listen to the radio. And when the announcer would talk, I would lower the radio, and then I would try and ad-lib something. And then when the music came up, I would play the music. By the time I was 13 years old, I built a radio station in the basement. And I had turntables and microphones, and my friends would come over and we would do radio shows. And I had the wires hooked up. So we were downstairs in the basement, and they would go upstairs, and my mom was cooking and she'd be listening to us doing the broadcast.
That's wonderful.
At 16 years old, I went to the local radio station, WOTW in Nashua. And I walked in the door, and the program director, Dick Corbin, said to me, what are you looking for? I said, I could put, records away. I could sweep floors, whatever you want. I just love radio. And he said, go in the studio and I want you to read for me. And I sat down and I felt like I was down in the basement. And I was reading commercials and the news. And he finished and he said, you know what? He said, I like the way you sound. He said, I'm going to start a radio program on Saturdays with young people, and you're going to be the host. You're going to interview your same age group, and you'll play the top songs from their high school and talk about social issues. And that was my first show at 16 years old.
Wow.
Years later, I went back and I bought that station, full circle. But nevertheless, I've been on the air doing this all my life. And I think you asked me, what is it that keeps me going? What keeps me going is the initial spirit and the enthusiasm that I had when I was just a kid. I still feel like I'm 17 years old. Mentally, I still feel that way. I interviewed Deepak Chopra one time, and Deepak, is a wonderful guy. And we were talking about age. And I said, Deepak, people think about their age and they worry about, aging, getting older. And he said, wait a minute. He said, you know how we have a thermostat in the house? I said, yeah. He said, you push the button, the thermostat, and you can adjust it. He said, we have a biostat. I see the picture of Deepak right behind you.
Absolutely. He was a great interview, right?
Exactly. And he said, the biostat, he said, is very important. He said, you can control that. You can turn it back X number of years. And he said, because when you're young, you feel like you have all the time in the world. And when you get older, you're kind of rushing because you feel like, I wonder how much longer I have. He said, but turn that clock back. And he said, and you'd be surprised, he said, the feeling that you'll have. And you know what? I've done that. But I did it a long time ago, even before the good Deepak told me about that. So I've turned it back, and in my mind, I'm still a kid. I'm still that little guy, 13, 14, 16 years old, playing downstairs and having fun. That's the most important thing.
I love it. And, I can really tell that you're passionate and that you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
So, I could even just speaking with you and you telling the story right now, I can tell that is coming from your heart. You really are just in it. You're in
Thank
it.
you. And I think a lot of that has to do too with my feeling of spirituality. I really feel that it's important to recognize. And I grew up in a wonderful home, Greek American home. My grandfather was a pioneer in the Greek Christian Orthodox Church. He was one of the first 100 ordained in America, came
Wow.
in 1914. And so he's a pioneer. He's looked upon as one of the first 100. And so he influenced me and my parents. And I don't like to use the word religious because sometimes that divides us.
Right.
But to me, I'm saying, look, recognize the fact this is a beautiful world, okay? And it was created out of love. And the love is from our Creator. And to me, that is really what keeps me balanced. I know where I came from, I know why I'm here, and I know where I'm going. And that is power. I love it.
Absolutely. And that's all we can ask for, really. I
Yeah,
mean, that should be everyone's goal in life, to
I
really
hope so.
get to that place, you
Yeah.
know. Oh my God, I'm just I'm so thrilled to speak with you. Even now
I'm
on
happy to
a
talk to
deeper
you.
level.
I love talking to you. You have a smile on your face. You know, when you connect with people eyeball to eyeball, the windows of the soul, that's what
Yes,
we're looking at right now. You and I connect, even though we're not physically together, we're
right.
still very much connected right now, and I love it.
Absolutely. And you know, I
Yeah,
I have run into you on the street. I used to work for the New York Post. And so I have run into you a couple of times. I've seen you in front of the camera live. And
great.
there is just a really great aura about you. And it's not
Thank
just
you.
because I'm a fan of yours and I've watched you on TV forever, but there is just something good about you.
I appreciate
And
that.
I really see that. So I just, again, so in that time, I mean, obviously so much inspiration in your life, even with your grandfather. That's just so, I could see where you've grown and that it's your dream and you're living your dream. I wanted to also ask you, just any interview stand out to you? I mean, you've spoken to so many people, but has there ever been an event or an interview specifically that has just impacted you somehow?
You know, that's a tough question because you started listing some of the people that I've interviewed,
Right.
and they've been presidents. I mean, I was really moved by talking with Jimmy Carter. You mentioned Jimmy Carter, who has just celebrated a 100th birthday, because Jimmy was sincere, and I loved his feeling of life. He was happy that he was president. He was honored by that. And he felt privileged that he was honored by that gift to be able to be in that leadership role. But he was also, and still is, a very spiritual person. So I was motivated by his personal feeling about why he was doing what he was doing.
Hmm.
And because we shared that, I think that was a very memorable interview. But talking to Fidel Castro to me was a powerful time. I mean, here's a man who created a revolution that was heard around the world, and he was a powerful figure. And I remember, looking at him, and when you're actually seeing someone in person of that stature,
Right.
you can't help but be moved by that. And I was. But the secret for me is every time I talk to a person, I always think of them as a child.
Oh,
I, I look
that's
at
a
them and I'm
great
saying,
tip.
yes, I look at them and I'm saying, they may be this large figure, in the world of news or celebrity status, but I look at them and I'm saying, this person was once a child. This person was once somebody's baby.
That's right.
And it reduces it to that so that I feel the human connection. And when I do that, it gives me a sense of comfort. And I feel like we're all part of something. So therefore, I don't get nervous, if you will,
Right.
interviewing a powerful figure because I think of them as just being one of us.
And they are one of us.
Absolutely.
And
Just,
that is the truth. And that's
yeah.
such a great tip for any journalist who maybe gets intimidated or for that matter, meeting presidents, like you said.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, he's a pretty intimidating person, I would imagine.
no question about it. But I've talked with Bruce Springsteen, who's a fabulous talent.
That
And
sounds
here's a guy who's an enormous personality, and everybody knows him and loves him. But when you talk to him, it's like this, one on one. It was a quiet little room, and I was talking to him. He couldn't have been any more sincere. And he just talked about, and this is what I love, when people talk about their roots.
right.
When people talk about their roots and they start thinking about where they came from and where they've come to. I love that. I respect that because to me, I'm saying you have not forgotten. You are still thinking about your family. You're
Mhm.
thinking about those influences in your life, and you're paying respect to that. And to me,
Absolutely.
that's very important. I've done so many different interviews. Alfred Hitchcock was an interesting interview.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was sitting at a table with him, and it was just a few people, and he was sitting right in front of me, right next to me. And I remember asking him, I said, Mr. Hitchcock, I mean, what a powerful figure he was. And I said, Mr. Hitchcock, I said, when you come up with all these ideas for these movies and, your television show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents,
Yeah.
there's always a twist and turn, all these different plots and things that happen. How do you think about that? And he looked at me and he said, these ideas come to me at the most inopportune time. Really? He said, yes, an idea can come to me anywhere, any place, anytime. And I said, so what do you do? He said, I write them down on a piece of paper. And I said, you do? Yes. I said, so that's how you can remember? He says. And then there was a long pause, and he reached into his pocket, and he took some little pieces of paper in his hand, and he pounded them on the desk.
Oh my
And he
God.
said, the future. And I said, my God, what am I looking at? The birds? What movies was he going to create? Right there in his hand. And I said, that is a creative process.
That's cool. That is
Isn't that a great story?
great. Oh my God.
I loved him. I loved him. But I've done, so many different interviews. I mean, I made a list one time of
Yeah.
different people that I've interviewed. I'm going to bore you for 1 second
I
here.
love it. You're not boring me at all. This is
Yeah,
my zone right here.
I ended up doing this one time, and I said, let me make a list of the people that I've interviewed and talked to, and people that stand out. Johnny Cash,
Awesome.
great talent. June
Wow.
Carter, Kenny Rogers,
Oh,
Barry Manilow, Muhammad Ali,
oh,
Mikhail Gorbachev, Ed Sullivan,
oh,
Lucille Ball, George
oh,
H.W. Bush, Luciano Pavarotti,
oh, God.
Lewis, Harry Belafonte, uh,
Wow.
Andre Agassi, Peter Allen, Michael Jackson. I mean, Ted Kennedy,
So cool.
Richard Nixon. Jimmy Carter. I mentioned that, but the list goes on. Some of the sports stars, Ted Williams, great talent. I'm just looking at other names. Francis Ford Coppola, George Gallo.
Wow.
I mean, all these names, and I came up and I said, what an honor. Cat Stevens. I said, what an honor to have met and talked to all of these people. Gloria Gaynor.
Oh,
She's
awesome. I
terrific.
was just gonna say that though. What an honor. Like, how does, I mean, they feel honored, I'm sure, to be interviewed by you, but you're meeting so many famous, influential people, and you're getting to really get that one-on-one and get to know them a little bit better. What does that feel like to you? I mean, your career obviously.
Feels great. I have to tell you, I have a picture. I can put it up. I have a picture with Whitney Houston. And I met her. She was going to perform, and it was at a private party. And I'm sitting with her one on one.
Oh,
And as the picture is, somebody took the picture. I think it was, I can't remember, but anyhow, I took this conversation with her, and she was holding my hand, and she was talking about spirituality.
wow.
She was just talking about how important it was to her and how it gave her strength. She had that spiritual background all her life. It motivated her in many ways. But this picture is classic. And she's looking at me with her head over and she's holding my hand. Whitney Houston.
That's
And
awesome.
these people stand out. They really stand out to
Oh,
me.
she was a great one. And I love that you're saying the conversation wasn't something, shallow or the surface. You're talking about spirituality with Whitney Houston, whose music and voice is like a gift from God. So,
Tremendous. Tremendous.
and that's a great connect, and like connecting with people, I always feel on that level. I mean, that's why I talk about health even, because I feel like when you speak about health,
Yeah.
it's, you're getting, of course, more intimate with someone. This isn't about some kind of celebrity, interview.
Yes.
With you, but I want to congratulate you. Obviously, you're taking a little bit of a different, venture into more positive news,
Yes.
which this world can absolutely use. So let's talk about Positively Ernie. It's
Okay.
going to be on 77 WABC. Is that right?
Well, I'll give you just a little quick background.
Yeah.
2020, we all remember 2020 and
Sure.
when COVID really hit hard. And that was a very serious time. I mean, we try to forget painful things like that, but we lost a lot of people. It was a very difficult time when our city, our country, our world was really shut down. And I was moved by that. And I still had, some time on my contract, but I wanted to take a break. And it was the right time for it. And Harvard Business School had a program, and it was for a 1 year period. And then I decided I was going to do that. And my office was left in place, but I returned from that journey And I said, I'm going to create a program, Positively America. And it's going to be about good things that are happening in our cities, in our country, in the world. And it's going to be good news that people can really appreciate and share. So I created that program about 2.5 years ago. And it's a half-hour show. It's called Positively America. We're now on 200 television stations across America. And in New York, I'm on Pix 11, Channel 11, Pix 11, on Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. And I love the show. It's a weekly show. So I do that. I write it, produce it, host it, which gives me all the freedom in the world. I own the show and I can do whatever I want with it, but it's a good show. And then WABC Radio, my very dear friend John Katsimatidis, we teamed up, and I've been on WABC Radio now for over a year and a half. And what I do is I have positive news you can use, and it's good things that are happening. But I'll talk about a problem and then how we find a solution to it. In other words, my good news stories are not necessarily somebody saving, a stranded cat on the tree.
Right.
My stories have some meat and bones to it. I'll talk about bullying.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it a problem? How terrible it is in terms of how it's affecting, especially our young people, and what's being done about it. How can we make it better? I'll take an issue involving relationships, mental health. We'll talk about the economy. I'll talk about AI, how we're being all affected by the new technology. Are we going to keep our jobs? Are we going to lose something? Are we going to gain something? So I take a lot of interesting issues, whether it's health, relationships, finances, and I put it on the air with good qualified people. And I talk about how we can make things better, how we can improve life. To me, I've always worried being on the news. I'd come on the air many times at night and I'd say, good evening. And then I would tell people why it wasn't. Just a laundry list of all the problems that were going on in the world. And I said, why can't I tell everybody how we can make it better? So I decided to turn it around and devote my time to positive news you can use. And it's inspiring. To me, it's informative, it's educational, and it's uplifting. And that's my mission in life right now.
Did you feel that now was the time, like that at the time you started this program, that the world needed something like this? Because like you said, you'd come on late at night and say, hey, good evening, and then tell you about everything terrible.
And why is
that is typical news, right? So
yeah, that had an impact on me. But even though I was doing the news in New York, I would always find ways of doing positive news. I would do special features, half-hour shows. I would do features within my broadcast. And I started doing that early on. And to me, that was to me a landmark. I said, you know what, there must be a reason why I'm doing this. And I set it up a long time ago, but this time I said, I'm going all the way with it, all the way. Yeah.
I love it. I love that you're bringing this kind of news to everyone.
We talk about health as well. A lot of the stories, because you're talking about preferred health, a lot of the stories that we do basically talk about our mental and our physical health. Because if you're talking about information, a story that impacts a lot of people, it could be moving to another city. It may be getting a college education and improving your work situation. It could be a second marriage, how people handle that. This all has to do with relationships and how you are handling life. So to me, that's a big part of health. And I'm big on that. I've always been very careful over the years, and I'll tell you the truth. I don't smoke. I've never smoked. I don't drink. I'm not saying there's anything against the drinking, because I came from a Greek American family. There was always a little wine and ouzo around, but I never really acquired the taste for it. So I don't smoke, drink. I don't drink tea or coffee. I try to exercise. I try to work out and keep myself in good physical shape. And food is very important. I have the Mediterranean diet.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of fish and vegetables and fruits. I love that.
That's probably the best diet right now going. I mean, that I've ever heard of that's actually working. And you're right, nutrition, all of that, spirituality, just,
Yes.
Your mental health, that is all intertwined. And that's, again, why I love speaking about health. And we do the same thing. We, here at Preferred Health Magazine, I cover relationships because, again, that is part of your mental health. How can you handle your emotional intelligence? Or, we've spoken about groupthink, which was something that we covered when we were seeing a lot of those riots or those protests in New York City, and people wondering, why are we allowing this violence to go on? These stores have been, there's fires happening, and so groupthink. And so I think that's really important also to cover, like you're saying. So people need to understand. I think with understanding, we can solve problems.
No question about it. And while we're talking about this, I want you to come on my show because in addition to the features that I do, I have a podcast.
Excellent.
Positively Ernie, and it's on WABC app, but we're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google,
Yes.
you name it. Would you come on my show so I can interview
Yeah.
you? You will?
Absolutely.
Okay. When we get off, I'm going to look at the calendar, and you and I are going to set it up. Okay?
I love it. I love it. I love
I'm
it.
looking forward to that.
Can I say one more thing? What is it about the field that keeps you going? Because I hate to say it, but you're kind of past retirement age.
I'll never retire.
But no, actually, you're not.
No. Irma Bombeck had a great quotation, and I love this, and I live by that among other things. And she said, "When I die, and I come face to face with God, I'm going to say, you know what? I have nothing left. I used all the talent you gave me." And that's how I want to do it. I want to empty out. I want to sing the song. I want to keep doing it because to me, that's the most important thing. And what I want to do is bring other people along.
Yes.
I get so many chills when I start thinking about just reaching one person and motivating them to do these things, to feel good about themselves, to find something really important. Do you want to be a host to God or do you want to be a hostage to your ego?
Oh, that's good.
How do you want to spend your life? What do you want to do with your life? If you waste your time sometimes doing a lot of this,
right.
And there's so much narcissism here,
yeah.
we have to be careful with that. Everybody wonders, how many likes do I have? How many followers do I have? And especially young people, they're hurt by that. I saw a recent survey where a lot of young people said they wish that they didn't have the phone. They wish the internet wasn't around because it bothers them. So these are the things that I want to work on. These are the things that I want to do. Yeah.
I think you should have a retreat. That's what I think. I think me and you should get together and try to get a wellness retreat going.
Can we do that?
I would love that.
Really?
Just made me think of that.
No, I'm telling you, I would love to do that because I love being with people. I'll take the microphone, go out in the audience and talk to them and come back on the stage.
I would love that.
We have a deal on that, okay?
Okay. We're going to put it in the
That's one of the best ideas that I've heard. You know what I like about this? Reminds me about another great quotation. Don't go where the path may lead. Go where there's no path and leave a trail.
Yes. Who said that? I know this quote. Yes.
Great stuff.
Ernie, thank you so much.
Love and good things in life, okay?
Thank you so much, Ernie.
Thank you so much.